So relocating in general, my gosh, there's so many freaking things that you have to think about. I want to shout out our video sponsor for today, which is Lemfi, a money transfer app that helps users send money from the US to any parts of the world. One thing about them is they have 0 transaction fees and they offer the best exchange rates in the market. M-Pesa was huge in Kenya, so instead of just going through a whole thing of trying to transfer to the bank, pick up the money from different banks, and just like, I don't know, money transfer is not as easy as it's painted to be sometimes. Lemfi makes it easy, and if you want to try it out yourself, you can use my code Bahati Nzuri and you'll receive $30 off any transactions above $100. So you guys try it out, let me know what you think. We made a very impromptu decision a couple months ago to relocate to Kenya. Now that we did it and we know the scope of what it takes, there's a lot that goes into it. So now we're gonna get into 7 things or tips that I would tell someone if they're looking to relocate. So for me, I did relocate back to Kenya, which is my home country, although I haven't lived there, like actively lived there, for more than 10 years. So everything was very new. I did have to kind of think very fresh-minded. Like I've never really, like I just have never experienced what it's like living there as an adult. So I had to look at things very differently. And same with my husband, who's American. We both had a lot of different things. We were like, okay, how are we gonna do this there? Like, we already have a base here, how are we gonna transfer it there? So there was a lot. But it was great knowing that we were really trying to think through all the things to make sure that we don't miss out on any crucial things. So the first tip I would give is finding a local you can trust. And a lot of people I know end up relocating to all parts of the world. They don't know anybody. Kudos to you guys who do that. Like, if you have done that, please leave it in the comments below. I think it's so admirable, and just like, I don't know, it just captures life as it is. Like, you're just like, yo, I'm just gonna move. Like, if this is not working out, let's just go. So the first thing I would say is definitely getting a local you trust to show you the ropes. So in my case, I had a pretty solid foundation, but I also ended up realizing that there's a huge community of people on Facebook and all these neighborhood apps. Especially, I know it varies country by country, but I know Facebook was a huge one. I mean, there was like literally like relocation groups that were just in and out, just giving information on like, where are the best schools, what do people do when this happens. I found the most resourceful information from Facebook groups. If I had to choose a social media site, people, the actual humans behind there. I found ways to sell things, I've bought things, I've just exchanged like nanny information. It was just like massive help on Facebook. And of course, just having a good support base, because you just have to find a local who can tell you the nitty-gritty of just like how things work. And you don't want to go there and experience it firsthand. Especially with us, we had kids, so it was kind of, we weren't trying to put ourselves in like a spot where we're trying to learn as we go. We really just needed to have a foundation set and just our tools and resources set right beforehand. So the second thing is assessing the whole country and planning for hurdles ahead. Every country has its own unique things. Kenya, for example, the system is very different from the US in terms of the structure. I already knew that there's not a lot of websites for information. Like, you can't just Google like everything, so you just definitely needed more information or word of mouth information more than, like, you can't just go on Google and just trust it and trust the reviews and everything. You have to like hear a lot about someone's credibility, and again, that goes back to Facebook groups and everything. But just assessing like a country's kind of just like way of doing things, and on top of language, there's things like transportation options. Is it easy to rent a car? What does childcare look like? What's normal? Like, do nannies live in the house? Like, I've never had a live-in nanny before, so that was a new experience that I also had to go through and just be like, okay, is this my cup of tea? Is it not? Then you kind of just shift it based on what's working for you, but you have to like understand the norm of the country and what's like standard, and then, you know, kind of just like adjusting from there. So 3 is definitely knowing how to transact in the country, because Lord, that is a huge one. And again, shout out to Lemfi, because the money transfer situation was just not as easy. There was either a lot of fees, there was a lot of foreign transactions that you look at your bank statements and you're like, what? Certain banks take a lot of transactions more than others. A lot of major banks in the US have a foundation in a lot of countries, so that wasn't really a problem. I think the biggest one for us was definitely having a very quick and easy money transfer situation, and also navigating M-Pesa. The dollar rates changes so much, and just currencies in general change so much, so making sure you're not like losing out on money too much, or you're not having all these hidden fees kind of attacking you on the back end. So that was a huge one. Number 4 is time changes and seeing how that will affect your work. This is literally not talked about enough, but the way we had to completely switch to just navigate in like the time zone that we're basically working in was kind of crazy. Like, we would have 2-3 a.m. nights, and of course you can't expect to wake up at like 7 a.m. like you usually would. Like, you have to sleep a bit longer. We definitely had to shift how we work like multiple times. We would either work ahead and then work a little bit later and cut off the time window at like midnight, or if you're working with a team, you just set certain times for meetings that doesn't interfere with like late night dinners. Fridays was a big one, my god, like that was the hardest. The weekend is like activated at Friday night, but it just goes with jet lag too. Just making sure you have enough time to adjust your time. And at the end of the day, all these things will fall into place. Like, you don't have to think about everything all the time, but these are just some of the things I literally was like, okay, what am I gonna do with this time change when it does happen? Like, when do I want to take meetings? When do I want to clock out that's sufficient? How many hours of sleep do I need? Like, there was just a huge balance, especially because we have 2 kids. So we had to figure out how to make that work. The 5th thing is just travel insurance. I don't think we talk about that enough, but there is travel insurance sites and plans available within either your own insurance that can give you just an added bonus from like 50 bucks extra or 100 bucks extra just to cover you while traveling. I think it stressed us out a little bit because we were like, do we need to get new insurance? Do we have to get 2? We have kids, like what are we trying to do to just make sure that we're covered? And then another thing that surprised us a lot is that like the Kenyan hospital system, especially because we gave birth there, if you pay for a service in full, it might be like a fraction of the cost than what it would be paying with like a copay or just paying off your insurance in the States. It was really interesting. Like, it was just a whole thing where we always just had to ask a lot of questions about how things normally work with travel insurance, car insurance. There's some places that are very strict with how many drivers can drive a car, and people don't care as long as a car is insured in of itself, which I discovered in Kenya. So just like little things that are the more adulting, boring things you have to think about definitely can make a huge difference, especially if they're like massive costing things like, you know, giving birth. 6th thing is just making sure you're covering your bases wherever you relocated from. We knew it was a very temporary relocation. We didn't know if it was permanent, but we did know that we were going to still have a base and still make sure things are functioning, like our phone numbers, our addresses, our bank details, all those things that you just have to think about ahead of time. There's also this thing called virtual addresses that have been massive, and I learned this through a Facebook group that really help people who are actually trying to relocate permanently to just have an address that basically acts as an address for their banks. Some banks may or may not allow, don't quote me please, I don't know too much about it, but I thought it was pretty resourceful. Yeah, just making sure that the base is covered on both sides. And then the last thing is, oh my gosh, be open-minded. It's a huge adventure. There is absolutely nothing, including this video, that can sum up what it's like relocating and the journey that you go through. You know, everyone has their own algorithm of life, so those are some tips that I would give to help with relocating. If there are any other resources that have helped out, I'll definitely leave them down below. Again, don't forget, I do have a Lemfi discount code under Bahati Nzuri that gives you $30 off any transaction above 100. And yeah, if anything resonated with you guys, let me know in the comments, and share away if you had any other things that I didn't mention that helped you relocate. There's a lot, it's honestly too much. So yeah, hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to like and comment, subscribe, and yeah, we'll see you in my next video. Bye.